Johnny Irish Matera started his criminal career in the crew of Sonny Franzese. Matera would eventually become a captain in the Colombo Crime Family. And it is the year that Johnny Irish was promoted to captain that casts doubt over the story that Sonny's son Michael tells of his own induction into the Mafia. Let's check him out. Welcome to OC Shorts, bringing you detailed historical snapshots of the American Mafia and other organised crime. Feel free to subscribe if you like that sort of thing. Today, we're going to take a quick look at the life of Johnny Irish Matera, a man who had once been an enforcer for Sonny Franzese. John Matera was born in 1932 and raised in the Little Italy area of Manhattan. He would later live in Brooklyn and Queens. John Matera also served in the Korean War. Returning from overseas, Johnny Irish would become an associate under Colombo Family powerhouse John Sonny Franzese. Sources state that Johnny Irish was a real tough guy and known as a piece of work. And Matera would become Sonny Franzese's driver and bodyguard in the early 1960s. Michael Franzese recalls riding in a car with Matera when he was a young boy, and then witnessed his father Sonny rough up another man. Franzese wrote in his autobiography, "We were picked up by Johnny Irish Matera and Red Crab, two bruisers. On the way, Dad ordered Matera to pull down a side street where a stocky, balding man about 6 feet tall was waiting. Dad told Matera, Crab and me to wait by the car as he went for a walk with the stranger. The two were about 50 feet away when I heard Dad yelling and cursing. I looked over and saw him grab the bigger man around the collar with both hands and literally lift him from the pavement. He held the man there for about 30 seconds, then dropped him to the ground. I had never seen him so furious, and I marvelled at the most superhuman strength he had displayed. I noticed that Crab and Matera were extremely tense through all of this. This ain't right, Matera kept saying. This don't look right. We better stay close." As well as performing his duties as a driver and a strong arm for Sonny Franzese, Johnny Irish Matera was known to be a successful armed robber and jewel thief. He was also charged but acquitted of the 1964 gangland murder of Ernest The Hawk Rupolo. In 1965, John Matera led a crew of armed men in the home invasion robbery of a man called Abraham al-Ezrati. Ezrati owned a vending machine and jukebox business. He had his machines in a bar that Sonny Franzese wished to put his own machines. Sonny spoke to Ezrati, who refused to give up the location to Franzese. Franzese allegedly decided to teach Ezrati a lesson and planned the home invasion. He put his trusted driver, Johnny Matera, in charge of leading the robbery. The other men involved were James Smith, Richard Parks, and John Cordero. Later, James Smith would testify against his fellow robbers and Sonny Franzese. He said in court, "Franzese spoke directly to me and Parks," he told the court. He said, "We were to go with Johnny tomorrow, that he's got all you'll need and do exactly what he says. He said there's one thing he wanted understood, and that's that there are two kids involved and he didn't want them hurt." Ezrati's two teenage sons were tied up but unhurt during the home invasion, where authorities claim that $10,000 worth of cash and valuables was stolen. Franzese and Matera would be acquitted in court of their charges. Throughout the 1960s, John Matera was suspected of being involved in extortion, a rare stamp heist, and several bank robberies. However, Matera's luck ran out when he was sentenced along with his friend Sonny Franzese for being involved in a string of robberies. Sonny was sentenced to 50 years in prison, but released on bail pending appeal. And Johnny Matera was given 5 to 10 years, but then turned over to authorities in Florida for his involvement in a $2 million heist. As one newspaper reports, Far removed from the luck his nickname of Johnny Irish might be expected to bring, John Matera, 34-year-old Cosa Nostra lieutenant, was dealt a legal 1-2 yesterday in Supreme Court. He was sentenced to 5 to 10 years imprisonment in the January 4th, 1965 theft of $125,000 in rare coins from a Madison Avenue coin dealer. Then, before he could leave the courtroom, Matera, member of the Sonny Franzese Long Island crime family, was slapped with a Florida ray growing out of a $2 million spa holdup. As well as the case relating to the Florida heist, Johnny Matera was facing trials for his involvement in several other crimes. It was reported Matera had posted $250,000 bail in Florida in the robbery case, and he still faces upcoming trials here on charges of masterminding a Maine to the Rockies bank robbery ring and having a hunk of a $10 million a year Broadway bookmaking operation. Johnny Irish had been arrested back in 1964 for his involvement in the $2 million heist at the Harbor Island Spa Hotel in Florida. As one newspaper stated, police said that none of the loot has yet been recovered. The gang that broke 70 safe deposit boxes at the hotel with heavy hammers and cold chisels had planned their operation well. Although the hotel is less than 500 feet from the Harbor Island Police Department and is connected to it by a burglar alarm, the men cleaned out the boxes without interruption. And then, in May 1967, John Matera was sentenced to life in prison for the $2 million spa hotel robbery. As the Miami Herald reported, John Matera was sentenced to life imprisonment, and Gennaro Gualtieri got 20 years behind bars after a 6-man jury Friday found them guilty of the $2.5 million Harbor Island Spa robbery. Luckily for Johnny Irish, Florida law at the time allowed for parole after 10 years, and John Matera was released from prison and back on the street in April 1976. Just 6 months later that same year, Johnny Irish was named as an on-scene participant in the October 5th murder of Colombo soldier John Mooney Cutrone. Mooney was shot to death inside Danny's Luncheonette at 202 Avenue M in Flatbush, Brooklyn. Matera was allegedly part of the hit team, but the killing was supposedly carried out by Colombo soldier Salvatore Albanese and powerful associate Hugh Apples McIntosh. The murder had been ordered by reputed Colombo family boss Tom DiBella. Matera had become close with DiBella after his release from prison. In February 1977, the 44-year-old John Matera was officially inducted into the Colombo Crime Family. In the same ceremony, the following mobsters were also inducted: Frank Beansie Melli, Alphonse Little Allie Boy Persico, Philip Chubby Rosillo, and Joseph Joe T. Tomasello. John Matera had been sponsored into the family by Tom DiBella, and Matera would report directly into the powerful Colombo mobster. Throughout the 1970s, the Colombo family had a couple of crews based in Florida. One was run by Nicholas Jiggs Fulano, and another by James Jimmy Brown Clemenza. In 1977, Jiggs Fulano died, and his crew was later disbanded. And in January 1977, James Clemenza was demoted, leaving a vacant captain spot for over a year. Until the summer of 1978, when Tom DiBella installed Johnny Irish Matera as captain to fill the void left by the demoted James Clemenza. The reason it is important to note that Matera was promoted to captain in the summer of 1978 is that it casts doubts over Michael Franzese's adamant claims that he himself was inducted into the Colombo family on Halloween 1975. In Michael Franzese's autobiography Blood Covenant, he writes about his 1975 induction. As I walked inside the U, I recognised the stern faces of the men sitting around me. The captains were on the edges, and the closer one sat to the centre, the more powerful his position. I recognised Johnny Irish Matera, one of my father's soldiers who had risen to be a captain himself. Matera gave me a nod. Firstly, if Michael Franzese was inducted in 1975, then it is not possible that John Matera was there, as he was still in prison and would not be released until April 1976. Secondly, Franzese states that Matera was a captain at the time of his induction. As previously mentioned, Matera wasn't promoted until the summer of 1978. I cover some of the other discrepancies in Franzese's induction story in a previous video that you can see here. Anyway, John Matera was running a successful crew and expanding operations in Florida. It is reported that his activities included bookmaking, loan sharking, floating dice and card games, after-hours clubs, extortion, strong-arm and narcotics, dealing in cocaine, marijuana and heroin. In his autobiography, Joe Dogs Iannuzzi, a Florida-based Gambino associate turned informant, writes of Matera. Rumour had it that Johnny put $500,000 in drug money into DiBella's hands. Most of that money came from Tommy Farice, who got his button from Johnny Irish in return. Then, after several years of success, things turned bad for Johnny Irish. In May 1981, Colombo mobster and informant Greg Scarpa would report the following to his FBI handlers. On May 12, 1981, source advised that the meeting on May 6, 1981 in Brooklyn between Carmine Persico, Thomas DiBella, Gerry Langella and other members of the Colombo family, along with high-ranking members of the DeCavalcanti family of New Jersey, was a result of a business dispute involving the DeCavalcantis and John Matera, the Colombo capo in the North Miami area. Source advised that the exact nature of the business at this time is unknown. However, the problem was serious enough that it had to be handled at the highest levels of the two families. And then, in the summer of 1981, Johnny Irish Matera disappeared and was never seen again. Some sources suggest that Matera had been skimming money from a drug operation with the DeCavalcantis, and that it was this that led to his murder. There is also another theory behind his disappearance. It is suggested that leading up to the May 6th meeting with Carmine Persico, John Matera had inadvertently led the FBI to the meeting after they were following him, and that the feds were then able to throw Carmine Persico back in prison for violating parole for associating with known criminals. Either way, it is firmly believed that it was Carmine Persico who ordered the hit on John Matera. Sonny Franzese, who had been in and out of prison on multiple parole violations relating to his 50-year sentence, was devastated at the death of his old friend. In 1981, he was out of prison for a period when he heard the news of Matera's murder, according to the biography Sonny by S.J. Peddy. In July 1981, Persico summoned Johnny Irish Matera, who was now a capo, to a meeting in his basement, ostensibly to discuss a drug deal Matera had on the side. Matera was never heard from again. His transgression, Michael believed it was because FBI agents had followed Matera to a meeting with Persico with some hoods in Brooklyn, causing Persico to violate his parole. Sonny, however, was sure that there was another reason: Persico's long simmering jealousy. Not long after Matera's disappearance, Sonny sat in the kitchen of Bill Ferrante's Miller's Place home, eating eggplant parmesan with Gina and her mother. Suddenly, Sonny broke down. "He killed Johnny Irish," he said as tears streamed down his face. "He had my driver killed." So, who actually carried out the hit on Johnny Irish? In 1991, mob associate Peter Urban pointed the finger at Gilbert Fernandez Jr. and Hubert Christie. The following article gets the date wrong on Matera's disappearance, but states, Johnny Irish Matera, 48, of North Miami Beach, a reputed captain in New York's Colombo Crime Family. He was killed and cut up in pieces by Christie and others in late 1980 on a fishing trip because he was unhappy with his share of the take from illegal activities, but did not share his portion of the profits, a confidential informant told police. And the Miami Herald would write, John Joseph Matera, aka Johnny Irish, 48, reputed captain in the Colombo Organised Crime Family. What happened? Disappeared in 1980. The evidence. Federal protected witness Peter Urban, a Mafia associate, told detectives in a sworn statement that Hubert Christie carried out the mob order killing and dumped the body at sea. Hubert Christie and Gilbert Fernandez Jr. were sentenced for 3 other murders, but not for the killing of Johnny Irish, although they are still suspected of being responsible for his death. I hope you found that interesting. Thanks for watching.